Now we are going to continue with Bible 101, and this will be number 12, and it will go in the seminary folder. We were speaking of the prophets in wisdom literature, so we are going to continue with that right now because the prophets, as I said, are unique as far as human beings go, and not only in the New Testament but everywhere else. So here are some more things about the prophets. They had many forms of address. Now, here are some of the types: lyrical fragments, prose, parables, curt oracle style, exhortations, diatribes, sermons, proverbs, formal psalms, love songs, satire, funeral lament, etc. Many used music as a catalyst to a special state of consciousness. Also, sometimes their states caused abnormal manifestations, but these are incidental to the fact that they were not only speaking their own words, but were speaking the words of God. The prophets not only warned against events against the meaning of the Jews, they corrected the wrongs by pointing to the right way, to return to the truth and the mission and the calling, a return to the covenant, for example. And they foretold patterns of God's action in the future, which went even into events in the New Testament and beyond. You see, that's how far that what we call foreknowledge of the prophets was. When we read the prophets, we can begin to see what is happening in the world and why nations and events are as difficult as they are. We can see how far many communities are from living together like human beings. It also becomes clear how life together erodes without the guidance of God's pattern of justice and right. We learn about the failure of leaders and teachers, as well as those who teach falsely and train us to trust evil. We also learn about the invisible forces that are available to help when we are unable to hear and to do. With the last two prophets of the Old Testament, we hear words which will lead into the time ripe for the new. It was a time when the Jewish traditions was beginning to fragment into sects, wide divergence of beliefs, legitimization of life, passionate expectations for political revolt or renewal, and unrest. Prophets pointed to a new time with such words as in Zechariah, next to the last of the prophets. And here I quote from Zechariah from the Jerusalem Bible. Rejoice, heart and soul, daughters of Zion, shout with gladness, daughters of Jerusalem. See how your king comes to you. He is glorious, he is triumphant, humble and riding on a donkey. He will banish chariots from Ephraim and horses from Jerusalem, and bow of war will be banished. He will proclaim peace for all the nations. His empire shall stretch from sea to sea, from the rivers to the ends of the earth. That's Zechariah 9 to 10 from the Jerusalem Bible. And now we get to the last prophet, who is called Malachi. And he is the last prophet in the Old Testament. And in his book, these are the very last words that he says. Now listen carefully to these words. Remember the law of my servant Moses, to whom at Horeb I described laws and customs for the whole of Israel. Know that I am going to send you Elijah, the prophet, before the day comes, that great day and terrible day. He shall turn the hearts of fathers toward their children, and the hearts of children toward their fathers, lest it come and strike the land with a curse. That is the end of the prophets in the Old Testament. Now we come to the New Testament. Now, let me give you just one little section before we end this. Before beginning with the meaning of the New Testament, one should understand that in Malachi, the last Old Testament prophet as quoted above, he who was to come, Elijah, was said to be John the Baptist by Jesus. Here it is connecting a link most directly seen. One is to tread on woven garments of truth between the Old and the New Testament. So, if it is true that Elijah became John the Baptist, does just this mean that Jesus believed in reincarnation, or one who was gone from this world could return again? We will continue with this. We hope you've enjoyed this much of our short video.